What if I told you there's a tiny strip of water on the map, so important that if it were to close, it could literally bring the world's economy to its knees? Well, today, we're diving into a scenario where that's exactly what happens. This is the anatomy of a crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, let's jump right into the deep end. It all really boils down to this one single, staggering number, 21 million. Keep that figure in your head, because it's the key to understanding just how big of a deal this whole thing is. So what is that number? 21 million barrels of oil. And in the scenario we're exploring, that oil has just stopped. It's gone, vanished from the world market. And we're not talking over a month or even a week. We're talking about every single day. The shockwaves from that would be immediate, and they'd be felt everywhere.
So you might be asking, how is that even possible? How could one spot have so much power? To get that, you got to understand the geography. Let's take a look at where this one single point of failure actually is.
The Strait of Hormuz is what's called a maritime choke point. The best way to think about it is like a massive superhighway, but with only one lane and absolutely no exits. It's this narrow, unavoidable bottleneck for a mind-boggling amount of ship traffic. And just like a highway, one little blockage here causes a catastrophic traffic jam for the entire world.
And wow, this visual really puts its importance into perspective, doesn't it? The Strait of Hormuz isn't just another choke point, it is without a doubt the choke point. A full 20%, that's 1/5 of the entire planet's daily oil supply, has to sail through this one tiny passage. Seriously, no other place on Earth comes even close to that level of importance.
All right, so how could a situation get this bad this fast? Well, the source material we're looking at lays out a fictional but totally plausible chain of events that takes us from a bit of regional tension to a full-blown global standoff.
And here it is. This is the spark that lights the fuse. According to the source's storyboard, the whole crisis kicks off with one single, incredibly bold move from Iran, a declaration that the strait is now closed. To everyone, that one action starts a domino effect that ripples across the entire globe.
And this timeline just shows you how fast things can spiral out of control. It starts in February with the strait closing. By spring, the economic pain is getting very real. Oil prices are through the roof. Come summer, the scenario suggests this escalates into a conflict involving the US and Israel, probably a military operation to try and force the strait back open. And that leads us to today in our scenario, a super tense, incredibly dangerous global standoff.
And this is where things get really tricky, a true geopolitical checkmate. In this hypothetical, Iran eventually says, okay, the strait is open again. But the US, under a Trump administration, says no way and keeps its blockade in place. Why? Because they just don't trust the declaration. They see it as a strategic trick, not a real solution. So now you have two major powers with completely opposite positions, creating this impossible standoff where the tension is just at a breaking point.
Okay, so a big standoff in the Persian Gulf. How does that actually affect you? Believe me, it doesn't stay over there for long. It shows up very, very quickly in your daily life. Specifically, every single time you go to fill up your car.
I mean, you can see the direct link right here. It's a pretty simple equation, right? When those 21 million barrels of oil suddenly disappear from the market, there's an immediate consequence for the price you pay at the pump. When supply gets choked off, global prices skyrocket, and that cost gets passed right on to you. All of a sudden, a distant political game becomes a very real hit to your bank account.
So, where do we go from here? We're stuck in this high-stakes standoff. What happens next? Well, the source material doesn't just leave us hanging. It also lays out three very, very different paths forward. Three potential futures that could come out of this mess.
So, the source gives us three roads to go down. First, you have scenario A, the best case outcome. De-escalation, diplomacy works, everyone comes to an agreement, the strait reopens, and oil starts flowing again. Then there's scenario B, a long, painful stalemate. The blockade stays, the global economy gets starved of oil, and we sink into a deep, long recession. And then you have scenario C, the absolute nightmare outcome. The standoff boils over into actual military conflict, with just catastrophic results for the global economy and, frankly, for global peace.
And that's what we're left with, isn't it? This whole scenario really forces you to think about how fragile our modern interconnected world truly is. It really makes you wonder, when so much of our global economy, our stability, depends on one single 21-mile-wide strip of water, what's the real price we pay for having a single choke point?